Hello everyone, welcome back to Hills and Hollers Homesteading and Prepping. It's Mike, and I'm going to do a little short one here this evening. I want to show you guys something here. So 20 ounce or larger plastic bottles, drink bottles, 2-liter plastic bottles. You're not going to squeeze any air out of these. Air's not going to get in these once you seal that up. You can use these after you wash them out and let them dry. You can use these to store rice, store beans, store potato flakes, anything you want to can or well, not can, but to dry store for your dry stores. These are good, frugal, reusable, and they're going to last. Now, I wouldn't put these in a windowsill and let them set like that. These would be something that I would put probably in like a container under my bed, in the back of my closet, down in my pantry, or in my basement. But you can fill these full of rice, you can fill these full of beans, you can fill these full of potato flakes, you can fill them full of oats. Okay, once they're cleaned and dried out. Put that lid on the top of it. You could probably get a couple oxygen absorbers in there if you needed to. But these, even 20 ounce pop bottles will make good, or soda bottles, wherever you're from, these will make good dry store containers because they are airtight. You are not getting that air out of there. So, frugal tip, especially if you use that stuff a lot, and which we do. Unfortunately, diet pop is something that we consume a lot of in our home. It's a bad habit that I'd love to break eventually, but for right now, I'm enjoying it. It doesn't seem to be slowing or affecting, my weight loss and my health journey, so I'll keep doing it. In the meantime, here's something else I want you guys to consider. If you were lucky enough to know your grandparents, now I'm saying this from a 50-year-old standpoint. My mother is going to be 83 this year. My grandma was born in 1911. She grew up through World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, Korea. So, she had that experience behind her. And my mom had World War II and that experience and stuff behind her as well. And these are experiences from a rural area. Now, I'm not saying anybody who didn't grow up in a rural area during those periods didn't have it tough. But I'm telling you, from listening to them and them recanting their stories and their experiences and stuff like that, these are folks who, they had outhouses. They did not have indoor plumbing. Everything was heated by wood or coal, in a wood stove or a fireplace. They had farm animals. They had chickens. Everybody had chickens back then. They butchered their own farm animals and stuff. They hunted, they fished, not recreationally, but for substance and subsistence, and they raised gardens for subsistence, not as a hobby. They pressure canned, or they canned over, fires and everything like that. Pressure canner, I don't know how long ago pressure canners were invented, but I know they canned for the 3-hour period, 3.5-hour period over open fires. And that's the way that they in a sense pressure canned or did their low acid type of foods. And, even just listening to my mom and her experiences and stuff, our elders and our ancestors who lived through those hard times, those stories that they have to share are very valuable information for us today. We live in a world, and don't take this as me attacking anybody. We live in a Starbucks world. We live in an Uber, Grubhub, DoorDash, fast food world. And there are people out there who cannot cook from scratch. There are people out there who cannot produce food from raw ingredients. They cannot produce a meal. They're lucky to operate a microwave at best. Maybe throw something in the oven and let it cook, but it's already frozen and pre-made. All they got to do is just bake it at a 350 for 3 hours. These are people who couldn't build a fire and cook on an open fire. These are people who do not own cast iron skillets. All right, and I'm not making fun of them. I'm telling you, this is the world that we live in. This is our society. Everything is easy, is convenient, is very, at the couple presses of a button on my phone, and I can handle, pretty much get anything delivered to me that I want. Food-wise at that, not just, goods and stuff like that, but food. There are people who shop 3 or 4 days a week for their each meal. There are people who don't make meals at home at all. They get their breakfast and their coffee on their way to work. They order out with the rest of the office or, work crew at lunch, and they get takeout on the way home. And in an instant, with all of that not being available, all it would take is something, a big grid down event, or something along the lines of what's going on in Ukraine. Not to say that that's very likely to happen here, but just take into consideration all of that going away at once. And now these people would have to fend for themselves. So they're buying 3 meals a day. They're not stocking or storing food. They're not prepared. They don't know how to cook. And there's people out there who can't fry an egg. You should really start, if you're one of these people, and I'm not picking on you, if you're one of these people, if that's your lifestyle because you're constantly busy, or your job or whatever like that, you're losing your life is what you're doing. You're not living. You need to know how to cook. You need to know how to create a meal from raw ingredients, to cook from scratch. You need to know how to bake bread. You need to know how to fry an egg. Can you cook a pot roast in a crock pot? Can you use an Instapot? Can you cook on a fire? Can you start a fire? Can you do any of these things? And if you can't, I'm going to highly suggest, that you start learning. There's YouTube videos out there full of, you can learn to do just about everything on YouTube. But I'm going to highly suggest that you start learning how to do this kind of stuff. Start learning how to cook. Start storing food at home. Actually, grocery shop. Save yourself money. Go shop. Put your food away. Do meal plans for the week. Prepare your meals for the week. And put it in containers and put it in your refrigerator. Take it to work with you. At least do something to sustain yourself and not be dependent on the conveniences that we have today. Because as soon as those conveniences go away, I'm not afraid to say they're going to people be likely to starve to death if they can't find anybody to help them. And those are the things that we need to get away from in this society. I'll give you a little shot of that sunset in there too. These are the things that we need to get away from today. We need to, and I'm going to continue to use this term, starve the system. We support the systems that make us helpless. We support the systems that take away our independence because we can't survive without them. Some of us can't survive without them. And the whole point of our journey is to be as less dependent on that as we possibly can, to produce as much as we possibly can right here and consume every bit of what we produce right here. That's our goal. That should be something along the lines similar or close to your goal. So take the time, listen to your grandparents, your great aunts, your great uncles, your aunts, your uncles, your parents. Let them explain to you or tell you the stories of their experiences growing up. And, you can listen to the one-room school, barefoot kids wearing bib overalls, walking to school, one-room school, kindergarten through 12th grade, each kid taking turns carrying water in from the well, each kid taking turns carrying wood and coal in to feed a potbelly stove to keep the classroom warm. You can listen to that and think that that's just hard, terrible times. But you ask these folks that, and they will tell you those are the best times. They wouldn't trade them for anything, because that is a life experience for them. They learned from that. That became a part of who they are today, or who they are as you remembered them. So if you still have your grandparents and your older parents, be very thankful and sit down and talk to them if you've never heard the stories, or if you just want to hear the stories. Their stories can become your survival guide. That's going to help you understand that though they may be hard times, they are great lessons, and they are survival skills for us in the future. My grandma, God rest her soul, I used to love to listen to her stories and listen to, how they grew up and how poor and how hard times were, and growing up through the Depression and everything that I didn't love to hear about the suffering that they went through, but the resiliency that it created, that showed, and you're talking that same time frame in rural Appalachia. That was hard. The Depression was hard on a lot of folks, on most of the country. But you take already dirt poor people in rural Appalachia, and you're going to find out that those people, they went through some stuff. And their experiences, to understand and hear about their experiences, is knowledge for us to draw upon ourselves when we need to attack, or to be able to use those lessons that they learned to apply to what we do today. Hopefully I didn't get too deep with that. But take the time and listen to your older folks. If you don't have grandparents around anymore and you've not heard the stories, talk to your elderly neighbors. Ask them. Let them tell you the stories that they experienced. It's a learning experience. And like I said, most of them, they wouldn't trade it for the world. So start doing more for yourself. If you're thinking about gardening, do it. Don't hesitate. Get on YouTube, look up how to garden, how to raise potatoes or tomatoes in 5-gallon buckets, container gardening, square foot gardening, raised bed gardening. You wouldn't believe how many vegetables you can grow in a 4x8 raised bed. Folks, do it now. Don't be a slave to our system. Don't let our system continue to make you more helpless and more dependent. Starve the system. That's what we need to work for. Again, your 2-liter soda pop bottles, Coke bottles, whatever they are, and your 20 ounces. These, cleaned out and dried, can become dry storage containers. Make them, reuse them, upcycle, recycle, whatever you want. Don't put them in a landfill. Put your rice and your beans and your oats and your potato flakes and whatever other dry beans or dry goods in them. Those can be your storage containers, your dry storage containers, and I'm sure you could probably get some oxygen absorbers down in them too. Oxygen absorbers do have a little bit of flexibility to them, so you should be able to get them fixed in there. So don't throw away those 2 liters and those 20 ounces. Put your dry goods in them. Store them up. Folks, if you're like-minded, please like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Leave some ideas. Tell us what you do. Tell us some frugal tips. Share this with like-minded people. In the meantime, take care. God bless, and keep prepping.